Welcome to coming here. It's going to be a little bit of a geek show here, so I want to set expectations right. My name is Albert Kooijman. This is the first presentation that we are doing about about devices certified for Skype for Business. I'm here together with Angela Donahue. She's the product manager. I'm the program manager. And we are working on meeting devices in particular. So I said it will be a little bit geeky what we are doing because we are not going to introduce you to the portfolio of devices. What I wanted to give you insight in is what we actually are doing in our labs to test all those devices and why this matters to you. So, and then we are going to essentially explain, okay, hey, these were the things that we measured, and then we give feedback to our partners, then they improve the device, and in the end, we are going to show you an experience end-to-end of, okay, hey, this is then the meeting device that we just launched last Monday as a showcase of those devices. So that's the essence of the talk. I'm going to essentially explain why this is so important. Then I'm going to essentially explain, okay, hey, these are the categories that we are testing. Then we are going to go into a deep dive experience of, okay, hey, this is what we tested, this is what we are finding, so that you understand what are the challenges that our partners and us, we are trying to overcome. And then we are going to literally give you a walkthrough of, okay, this is a user experience end-to-end that we then, together with our partners, have been creating. That's the outline. If you want to know roughly what the whole takeaway is of this talk, is that devices really, really, really matter. Because if you don't have a device, the quality can suck big time. And then the second part is that if you have a device that actually is certified for Skype, or for Skype for Business, because that is our main focus here, you actually get an extra bump out of it. So that is something that is essentially the whole talk in a summary. And like I said, I'm going to be very geeky in the sense of, okay, hey, look, this is what we are measuring. Just a moment ago, I spoke about that devices matter. And there's one device that actually matters the most in creating a bad experience when you're talking about audio experience. What is the largest part of this pie chart that you have here? It are people that are connecting into a Skype call, Skype for Business call, purely on the basis of whatever microphone is in their laptop. I was talking yesterday to someone who came to the booth who was trying to convince me, I have a Mac, it has great audio. Well, could be the case, but that is not what we are hearing. Right? I'm not saying that Mac audio is bad. But what you need to understand is that if you just can attach even the cheapest USB device, the audio experience already is hugely better. And if you take a Skype for Business certified device, where we did all this work with our partners, the experience is even better. So what does that actually mean? We base our research on all the people that are connected to Skype for Business online. I do not know in how far that scares you or in how far that actually helps you, but the moment that we start moving into the cloud, there's a lot of user data that we have. So the cloud essentially is a gold mine in getting objective data, or also getting perceived data. And that is essentially what we are doing. At a bunch of calls that we are having on our network, on our Skype for Business online network, after the call, we ask people to rate the quality of their call. That's that little screen that comes up where you essentially have little stars, and you can give it a star rating. And then we feel very bad when that call is rated as poor call rate. So essentially that people say, my quality was not good. And if you then start essentially measuring what I said just a second ago, is that means that if you are just calling from your phone, from your PC, from your laptop, guess what? About 13% of all the calls that come in are not rated good. So even if you say, hey, I've got a Mac, or I've got a service, or I've got blah, 13% of all those calls that come in from an ordinary laptop are rated bad. If you were to attach a USB device, that bad call rate drops to roughly 5%. So your users, if you are trying to create a good environment, a good experience, you can actually create more happy users. You can essentially take the people who say, my calls are bad, down by half, by just essentially making sure that those people start buying a device and use that instead of using their PC. You can also see that actually those people who are in a meeting, and I do not know what you do, but wherever I go, I essentially have this little speaker device with me. If I have a meeting, at that very moment, I plug in this one, the meeting experience, and that's the third bar from the left. With a speakerphone, is still twice as good, perceived twice as good as if you would just call from your PC. So that is that's important data that you have, right? Because you are going to be judged by if the people that are calling via Skype for Business essentially have a good experience. And if you were to build your meeting room, if you have to decide, okay, hey, I'm going to use the microphone that is, for example, on a certified device that we have, like a Logitech 930, at that point in time, you still can get an extra bump out of it in the quality if you were not only to use that webcam, but you use a speakerphone for the audio. Again, you can see bar number 4. You have effectively people who are essentially just using the mic on the particular webcam. And you can see that you can shave off about 2%, 1.5 to 2% of bad calls. And that's, to be very precise, that is roughly around a quarter of your bad calls by just switching to a device that, like a speakerphone. So that is only if you are listening to it. We were also able to correlate that if both ends, both sides, have an audio device that essentially is like not their laptop. And you can get another 10% in improvement. And that had nothing to do with essentially the quality of our network, the quality of our product. But just by the device itself, you actually can get an extra bump of 10% almost, or 9% as the slide says, when you, in comparison to when you would have a call where there is one PC involved. That is the reason why we are doing this certification program. That is the reason why we are saying, hey, it is so incredibly important that if you are looking at essentially creating the best experience for your users, that there should be set aside some budget, either for everyone personally, that you encourage people to buy devices that can, for example, if you're a mobile user, that can work both with your mobile phone as well as with Skype for Business, or that can work with your PC specifically. You have to set aside a budget in order to make sure that those people actually get the best experience out of your deployment of Skype. The process that Microsoft enters into is essentially work with a whole bunch of vendors. We have created for that, I forgot to put in the link I now see. We have created for that a catalog. I only know the URL from my old days. It is catalog.link, you still know link.com. Takes you to a very long URL that is the new URL with Skype for Business in there somewhere. Catalog.link.com. And there, if you look at the device categories that we have, there's a bunch of device specifications, testing specifications, that we are certifying devices against. On the one hand side, you have devices that are very focused on audio. Many of you will essentially come to that stage that you start using Skype for Business for voice, that's to say for phone calls. For all those, we actually have IP phones. If you want to have an IP phone that is actually working with the cloud, with Skype for Business Online, there's even a special category for that, for cloud phones, cloud IP phones. Those phones, they work with Skype for Business Online. And we essentially, on those IP phones in general, we work with 3 vendors that are almost like in daily touch with us to constantly improve the quality and make sure that we have the right feature set in order to create this great end-user experience. Those 3 vendors are Polycom, AudioCodes, and Yealink. Those are the phones that we certify and where we know, okay, hey, there is a great user experience. There is a great audio experience. Let me first go a little bit more in detail about that user experience. Over the last, especially around the most recent releases of the phones, we have done a lot of work with the different design teams for the user experience with regards to aligning the models that we have, the interaction models that we have in Skype for Business in the client with what is going on the screen of the phone. And that starts with simple things like making the icons consistent. It starts with simple things like even the color. So if you now look at the phones that we have released with the latest updates, the UX looks very similar in the Skype for Business colors and the Skype for Business color schemes. When there is a call coming in, you actually have the green button and the red button that you know from Skype. So those are the things that we are doing. So if you would go to the expo floor and you go to those 3 vendors that I just mentioned, Polycom, Yealink, and AudioCodes, you actually will find that there is a very aligned user experience. Of course, there's still a lot of differentiation in feature sets for one IP phone compared to the other IP phone, but those are the things that we actually paid a lot of attention to. So it's not only about audio quality, it's also about reducing the learning curve for people who start using these devices. Of course, that is less the case once you start talking about using the Skype for Business client as your phone, the soft phone that we essentially built. That's the next category that you have here, where you essentially have personal peripherals and PCs. To start with the last part, we actually work with the PC manufacturers, the laptop manufacturers like, for example, HP, Lenovo, to make sure that it's not only the quality of audio that we are improving, but also the things that, for example, that you connect via wireless. Essentially, we are trying to make sure that we have a whole set of specs that make it a good device. Of course, not as good, I have to re-emphasize that, as when you would attach a headset, like a USB headset. But at least that it's better than the crappy microphones that sometimes are put into laptops. So that is with regards to PCs. When you're talking about the personal peripherals, those are typically USB headsets and USB speakerphones that we have. Those USB speakerphones, before entering into the next category, there's essentially 2 categories of those. On the one hand side, you have the devices, the personal speakerphones that you have that are personal devices. They are essentially for you when you want to work hands-free, you want to put it on the table, and essentially it is tested as a device for essentially having one person in that room. It is not for a meeting. It is for you, effectively, your convenience to put it on the table. And that is different from the spec that you see on the right-hand side when we are talking about meeting peripherals. What we are doing with a meeting peripheral, and I will go in great detail in that in a second, it is when you are having multiple people in the room. So if you have, for example, a Plantronics 620, it's a very great personal device. And I see my friend from Sennheiser sitting there. So if you have a Sennheiser SP20, it looks exactly the same as that, like a little puck. Or if you have a Jabra 510, so SP20 or a Jabra 510, we actually have done work there to make it possible to also use this device when there are multiple people sitting around that little table And I go in with some audio samples in a moment without disclosing which audio device is which one, but I will come back to that in a second. But you will actually listen, you can hear the difference. There's tuning that was done together for those particular devices that makes it possible that there are multiple people in the room that both are speaking or that the larger group is speaking. So that's when you have a small room. We also have created a category of test when you have larger rooms. Larger rooms you can typically solve by not having just one microphone to pick it up, but have extension mics. Or you can have, for example, the Jabra 810, which is a little bit larger saucer speakerphone. I do not know if you have seen those at the booth, but those are phones, speakerphones, that actually are capable of covering a larger room. So those are the types of devices, USB devices, that are optimized for meetings. We also have specs for cameras, but given the fact that I don't have a lot of visual material, I have a lot of audio material in the coming slides. Those are the devices that essentially build those meeting peripheral category. And once you put that all together, we are working with our partners, and that is the product that we launched this Monday, and then, that's the next generation of Skype room systems, where we are putting together the experience not only of the tablet through which you are controlling the meeting, but also the devices, the camera that has a wide field of view, the audio device that can actually capture multiple people speaking in the room. And we, with all of those vendors that we launched our project Rigel with, are now known as the next generation of Skype room systems. Those are Logitech, Crestron, and Polycom. We have put bundles together for small and mid-size and larger rooms in order to get the best experience. There's one device, for example, if you're talking about large rooms, that Microsoft particularly loves, also because we invented it, more or less. And that is, for example, the Roundtable HD. One of the things that you could see during the keynote is that if you have a large room and you use this 360 view camera, you can look around the table and you can see all the participants. Not only inside the room, of course, you can see the people, but because we are using the panoramic view, on the other side, people, either when they are participating via their PC, via their laptop, they can see the whole strip of all the people that are sitting around the table. Or if they are in a meeting room like the next generation Skype room system, or by the way, also the old generation of Skype room systems, you can see the whole strip of that room. And the person who is speaking is captured out of that and is put in a special window, the active speaker window, that you actually then can see that one person in that bigger room that is speaking. So you do not only have the view of the room, but you also have the focus on that one person that is speaking actively. Those are examples of, for example, a good setup that you have. This CX5100 or the Roundtable HD has satellite mics, so you can actually cover the rest of the table as well. You can put 3 mics on the table and essentially pick up from both end to end those large rooms. It's just one example. If I give another example, for example, if you're looking at the offerings of the next generation Skype room systems that are being built by Logitech, they have a device which is called the Conference Cam Connect. It's like the Pringles box, as I always call it. When you put that on the table, you essentially have audio built in together with a camera, and you can put it in the front of your room, and it essentially picks up in those smaller rooms the audio and the video in a very effective way. What do I mean with effective? Because typically you sit close to the screen in those smaller rooms. So that camera has a wide field of view and can actually pick up the people who are also sitting close on the left and on the right. So those are the types of specs that we are putting together. If you have a mid-sized room, you actually can use the group of the Logitech group. And that's also a conference camera, and it has a bigger speakerphone. And it has satellite mics if you want to go even bigger. So those are the types of setups that we are creating. Like I said, I want to go a little bit more geeky now, and I hope you have the patience with me, because after me, Angela will start speaking more the meeting devices, how it all comes together. But I want to actually give you a little bit of insight of what this testing looks like and what we actually are testing. And I am going to illustrate that by the process that we went through in the last year, because it took quite a while, actually, to start testing those meeting audio devices. in Building 9, where we sit inside Redmond, we actually have created a test room. And in that test room, you have those, what you might recognize as a crash test dummy. Those are very expensive props. And we have created an environment that we have spec'd exactly on how far the microphone needs to be, what microphone it is. And the beauty of it was, like, when I visited, for example, Jabra and Sennheiser last year, this room existed on our side, but actually with our partners, exactly those same setups exist because we all want to create a very measurable and predictable test environment where we both can, on both sides, that's to say ourselves and our partner, can test those results. So this is a setup for a small room. You essentially have that crash test dummy, as I call it. They have a special name. I forgot the name already. And they actually have ears. By the way, and this is very funny, they do not only have an ear, you can literally select what human shape, form of ear you have. It's like they have a wall with different types of ears. And in that ear, actually, there is a microphone, there's a, how do you call it, a recording device? Yeah, that's a microphone. Yeah, they have microphones inside. So once we start, and that's the second part of the test, start playing a standardized audio file, we actually, and at a specific strength of audio, those ears start receiving audio, we record it, and we analyze that. So this is the setup for the small room. By the way, this small room has the big room speakerphone on there. This is the Jabra 810. But of course, you could have had a small little puck, like the 510 or, yeah, those type of devices. Here you have the setup for the large room. This one is featuring the Polycom Trio. You know, we featured that in our demo, and that's not without reason. Well, maybe I'm not going to show you exactly which audio file that I'm playing is which audio, but this device has been designed to actually have great audio pickup. No matter how far away you are, this has the strongest and clearest audio that we have measured. Of course, there are a few other devices now that are getting close, but this was the best device for a long time that essentially is able to pick up great audio in those large meeting rooms. Why do I say large meeting rooms? Because on the second table, you see exactly that thing that I spoke about just a moment ago. This is a satellite mic. So in the larger rooms, you typically have those cascaded mics, and they can actually pick up audio for the other side of the room. Now, what happens if you actually start, and I will come back to that in a second as well, what happens if you have multiple mics that are picking this up? Not only there are multiple mics already in that Starfish phone, but there is now a second mic on the other side of the table. You, of course, need to coordinate when multiple people are speaking at different sides of the room, how to actually do the cancellation of all that background noise. So, and that's actually that's the wisdom that our partners bring to the table. To do the tuning between all those devices to make sure that no matter where you are, that all the people are treated equally in that room. And when you are having multiple people speak at the same time, that audio is still getting across in the right way. We, for meeting rooms, have essentially 4 setups that we are testing. And this is just, don't look at the slide because this is too much detail. But the essence that you need to take away is that once you have this predefined environment that is reproducible across the world with our partners, and you have the sets of audio files that we are testing with, that is how we actually start tuning all those particular devices. These are the types of setups that we have. And then we start measuring devices. And let me be very precise here. So we started this exercise, I think, with 13 different audio devices. So 13 different types of mics. You would say, hey, what is different between those mics? All those different mics are essentially represented in this graph as the dots in one vertical line. So this is device number 1. This is device number 2. This is device number 3. We start measuring those exact audio files in that exact reproducible environment and start saying, okay, hey, If these are the tests that we are running, those are those lines that you see go vertical, how do those microphones compare to each other? So in other words, if you look at the audio level, and if you are at 1 meter distance, at what point in time are they different? So this is all sounding very abstract, right? And then we start testing them against essentially 2 media stacks that we have. Because we are not only Skype for Business, we are also testing this for Skype, the consumer Skype. I do not know if you're aware, but it's very much the same, but there are still slight differences. I do not know if you hear the same as what I hear, but I can, when people are on television and they're calling in into the television via Skype, you can hear when you're in the kitchen, right? Ah, that's a Skype call. There's this slight change in audio that makes it a Skype consumer call that you can pick up. And Skype for Business is actually, I find, a little bit more natural in that sense. But the audio stacks are the same, but they are slightly different tuned in that sense. And we are testing both those devices. And again, to go in greater detail, then we start setting a bar. So we said, hey, this is what it should be. That's that red line that you see. And every device that actually is able to tune itself above that line, that's essentially the hurdle that we set in order to be a certified device. And if you are not making that hurdle, we work back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until we actually both agree, the vendor that we are working with and ourselves, that this is a device that actually meets that spec. Now, there are different things that we are doing inside Skype and Skype for Business in order to make a call audible. And those are abbreviated here at the top. So we have a technology which we call gain control, automatic gain control. That's that first column that you have. And what does it do? It essentially, as a microphone, you hear a specific sound, you pick it up, and you now need to get it over that hurdle. You need to get it over that red line that I showed just a second ago. There are software tricks that you can do in order to actually get it over that hurdle. So there is gain control, that is what that hurdle strengthening is, or getting over that hurdle, and you turn that on. And then we have 2 extra things. We have our magic in Skype and Skype for Business in the other sequence. Skype for Business comes first, and then in Skype. And once you start listening to those audio files, so this is what comes out straight out of the particular device, and I hope that the audio works.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs. The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs.
So this is what comes straight out of the mic with the gain control on. Now, if you go to the audio file after Skype for Business handles it.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs. The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs.
And this is device 1, what it does to it, right? So if you say, hey, shit, that didn't sound too well. Now, that means that there is work. Sorry, I did not say that. It means that you have work to be done, right? So now you need to start making stuff work together. And that's actually where this whole magic comes in, right? So let me actually play this one. Noticeable noise in quiet speech pickup is what the observation is. So the different mics have different characteristics.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs. The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs.
Let me actually see if we have a device that actually works well. Now I do not know anymore what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stands for. So let me...
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs. The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs.
Or this one.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs. The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs.
Now, the thing that I want to get across by playing those files is that we have the same set of rules, and there is different outcomes. So we are trying to make the audio, I think the last one sounded the best. I do not know if you agree with me, but that means that that device is actually, so that's a winner. Let's keep track of number 10 in the next few slides. But that one is pretty cool. So we are testing that for all those devices. So we are essentially saying, okay, hey, if you meet this particular level that we jointly agree on, and you are above that, then we start letting you pass. Now, I spoke about that we have different scenarios for different situations. I spoke about that we, for example, have a little device like the Jabra or the Plantronics one that you can take with you, and you can have a great device when you're just having one speaker. That is the scenario which we call single talk, and then essentially have try to make sure that there is no far-end echo. So that is the testing that we did on this particular device. The more interesting scenario comes when you actually have two people speaking. Do you remember that in that slide that I showed just a moment ago of our test setup, there are different mouths, as they call it. So you have those little ears, those are those crash test dummies. But you can have different people in the room, and those are speaking at the same time. So what happens at that very moment is you need to make sure that those speakers both are equally picked up as such. So let me see if 10 was still a winner.
We tried to replace the coin, but failed.
The set of china hit the floor with a crash.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair.
So you get the audio there. Then this is what Skype makes of it.
We tried to replace the coin, but failed.
The set of china hit the floor with a crash.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair. A pound of sugar costs more than eggs.
So that's where it goes pretty well. Let me actually see strong burstly echo.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair.
Can we stop the audio? Yeah. Let me see here. Strong burst echo. Source sends signal in very low. So this is what the source sends.
We tried to replace the coin, but failed.
The set of china hit the floor with a crash.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair.
So this is when it works with Skype for Business.
We tried to replace the coin, but failed.
The set of china hit the floor with a crash.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair.
So pretty good.
A pound of sugar costs more than eggs.
So this is what the... Oh.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair.
And that's exactly what it says. So if you... Sorry. If you actually have this bad experience between second 11 and 20, you get this bad audio. And then we have to go back to our partners and say, hey, what's going on here? And then we do more tweaking on the DSPs, and we actually get a better experience. Now, the second scenario is when you have essentially two people talk over each other. So you can here see that, so in how choppy certain sentences get. Let me actually find someone where this is going bad. Here we again. This number 8 is not a very good one.
5. 5. 5.
Okay, so this is bad, not very good, right? Now let me actually see this one. Should be a good one.
5. 5. 5.
5. 5. 5.
Like I said, it's getting very geeky.
5.
But you hear the difference, right?
5.
Between the different devices. And when those all pass that bar,
The
that
shaky
we have
barn
set,
fell with a loud crash.
they essentially
Pluck a
are
bright rose
ready
without-
for prime time. When we launched this Monday, we are essentially launching with about 11 devices that Skype Room Systems are certified with. So those are the things that we are using. Someone has a Skype call coming in. I hope it's not me. Okay. So this is what I tried to explain. This is the process when you're talking about certified for Skype for Business of what is happening. And then under the hood, our engineers, together with our partner engineers, work the best in order to make sure that we have the greatest audio experience as such. That's this slide should be cut, but what we are doing now is at this moment, we are doing a lot in improving our audio. Let me actually talk a little bit about the secret. So we are working on a new audio algorithm, and those new algorithms actually provide a better digital gain, so essentially make the sound stronger and keep the noise natural. All right. So if you have people who are essentially talking to each other while they are in the meeting, you actually get the second person that essentially starts speaking. So take out the bad one here.
A pound of sugar costs more than eggs.
And now it says, check the 30th second.
The jacket hung on the back of the wide chair.
So this
a
was
pound of sugar costs.
Anyhow, like I said, 2 gigi maybe for here. But let's actually find one that actually that is good here. Let me find someone. Interfere, not audible. 10 was a winner.
A pound of sugar costs more than eggs.
Let me actually go to the 30. Here, you don't hear that second person anymore. This is a rightly tweaked device. So that's
The jacket hung on the back of the.
That's the magic that the right audio, together with working well together with Skype and Skype for Business, actually does. All right. Now, actually, we go to the second section of our talk. How does this all come together? And with that, I hand over to Angela.
Hello. Feel free to stay up here, Albert.
Okay.
You can do some
Can chime in
commentary on this. So I'm Angela Donahue, Product Marketing Manager on Skype for Business team. How many of you were actually at Ilya's session yesterday and saw his? So we'll cover a little bit of that as well. So when we sought after this, what we've called formerly Project Rigel, we were looking at the 97% of rooms that actually only have a conference room phone and a projector or a TV and display. And so this is the wide majority of spaces that do not have video in them currently. And we all have experienced this. It's the 10-minute average, at least, start time for meetings. And who's talking, who is that? Wait, can you hear me now? Wait, let me try again, let me dial in. So we've all experienced that pain. And so this is what we sought after to fix. Our vision has always been to bring the Skype for Business experience into every meeting room, and that's into personal and mobile devices through your desktop and PC, all the way into, of course, meeting spaces. And that's why this Monday, Gurdeep and his keynote introduced what we formerly called Project Rigel into the next generation of Skype room systems. So walk through a little bit of what Skype Room Systems is. We want to transform every meeting room, really delight the users because it's easy and simple to use, and also make it easy for your IT admins to manage this going forward and make it just super, super simple. So first, for transforming every meeting room, we want to ensure that this is really easy to scale. So from the small huddle spaces all the way up to the medium rooms, and again, we've talked about different bundles that our partners are going to create for each of those spaces, all the way up to the very large conference rooms. And this is all going to be starting at under $2,000. So we're really excited about this affordable, scalable solution. And secondly, having a really extremely simple, intuitive user interface for our customers. And so going into that meeting, one touch join, everything works. Automatically, no need to fumble for anything and use dial-ins. But we also have the ability to have PSTN calling to actually replace your conference room phones if needed. You have your content that you can share right through the dock and actually manipulate slides going back and forth, and then share out to your remote participants automatically without any extra buttons. And then, like we mentioned, easier for IT. So this is going to be a Windows 10 UWP managed device. And so it already incorporates into your normal workflows, really low training effort due to familiarity of Skype for Business. Here, Albert mentioned all the different kind of bundles our partners are going to create for you. so that you have the adaptability of having things in your small spaces as well as your medium and large rooms.
Yeah, maybe we can stand still here for a second.
Sure.
So just a moment ago, I spoke about that there are multiple devices that are certified at this point in time. There's more coming, by the way, so we constantly continue to work. I'm about to cut off my tongue because I was about to say what examples we have for what is coming, but let's actually look what we have already. So if you are talking about, for example, in a meeting room that you need to have a small room all the way to the big room. I spoke already about the device that is at the bottom here, which is the round table. This is this 360-degree camera. But you also have, if you have a very small room, this thing that everyone will say, oh yeah, that's a webcam. This is the Logitech 930. This is not just a webcam. That actually is a very powerful webcam that has a very wide field of view, has 1080p video that we can actually transmit all the way in Skype for Business from one side of the meeting all the way to the people who are remote. And then you have the cameras that are in between. Like, for example, I spoke about this Pringles box just a moment ago. This is the Conference Cam Connect. That is essentially also possible in the smaller rooms, but it goes up to the medium room. But if you want a slightly larger room, so you want a mid-size room, you can use a pen tilt and zoom camera. This is the PTC Pro from Logitech that you have here. That's this device. And this particular device essentially allows you to move around. It currently still has a remote control, but imagine that soon, in some update of this automatically updating UWP, there will be pen tilt and zoom controls inside that particular meeting control device that you see here on the left. So with other words, you can then zoom in on the person who is speaking. You can zoom in on, for example, your whiteboard if you were to want to transmit something that you had written on your normal plain whiteboard as such. So those are different examples of video devices that we have tested. There's one more device here that has not been truly announced yet, but that's the Panasonic camera that ships with Crestron. We will come back to that in a second. So those are the different types of video experiences. When you are talking about the audio experience, we spoke about that these puck devices, like the one that I said that I am carrying around with me, that's, if I would have unwrapped it, that's this one. That's the SP20. This is the Jabra 510. And then for larger rooms, you have the Jabra 810, and you've got this Trio phone that essentially plugs in as a USB peripheral into our control panel, So yeah, I should have said that to do not disturb. Here we go. All right, so those are the types of devices, and now let's go a little bit more into the different bundles by our partners.
So Logitech is our first partner. They will be shipping next month. They have a booth here as well, so go there and check it out, and you can see a demo of the Skype room systems. You'll also see some of their peripherals available as well. For the small room, they have the Conference Cam Connect, which Albert just pointed out, as well as the group for larger and medium conference rooms. Secondly, we have Crestron. They will be shipping by the end of this year, and you can see this in our booth today, at Microsoft Office 365 booth. For their small and huddle spaces, they're actually using some third-party devices here. You can see the Logitech camera and Panasonic and the Jabra as well. And then they will have something available as well for your in-room speakers for your large conference rooms.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about that one. One of the value propositions of the next generation of Skype room systems is that you would not need to rip and replace. In case you do not want to rip and replace, you actually are inheriting stuff. You are inheriting, for example, the audio that you have built into your ceiling already. You might have in your room those drop-down microphones, and you might have those speaker phones. Those are montaged into the ceiling. And you essentially have a bunch of analog devices there. The device that Crestron is working with is essentially this breakout box that you see here at the bottom. And you can then essentially connect all those devices to their infrastructure. Adds quite substantially to the price, but with that, you don't need to actually recable stuff, break the walls, and build other stuff into your room. You essentially can just use what you had in your room as well. What they have here on the right is essentially a HDMI converter that converts HDMI signals to USB so that they also can go into our Project Rigel, in our next generation of Skype room systems. So that is especially suitable for those large rooms where you might have invested already tens of thousands of dollars of equipment in there and hook it up to that infrastructure.
Okay, and last but not least, we have our Polycom dock as well. This will be shipping early next year. They also have a booth here, so go and check theirs out in their booth as well, also available in the Microsoft booth. So here they had their options for the small huddle spaces, the PTZ camera, and the Trio, which they will also sell as a bundle, as well as an option for their large conference rooms with another PTZ camera, their CX5100, 5100, and their media line.
If you did not see Kudeep's keynote, the camera here that you see, that is a new camera that Polycom is releasing. Ires is in the audience, but you could see the pimples on his face, right? So exact. No, it's a brilliant. Sorry, you did not have pimples on your face, of course. But if we would have had pimples on his face, we could have seen them. No, I do want to call out the extreme quality of that camera that you had there. The other thing I spoke just a moment ago about, okay, hey, there's all those existing infrastructures that you might have in your room as well. And you do not have this opportunity to actually start doing recabling of your rooms. Or essentially do what people refer to commonly as hang and bang, essentially touch the walls, etc. One of the products that Polycom will also be releasing next year is a series called Media Line. You might know it already, but then working with Skype for Business. And that's the device that you see here on the right. Effectively, it is a monitor together with the whole software, together with the camera, built in a stand so that you do not need to touch your walls. And that actually is a big benefit for you if you do not want to break your walls and build those cabling into your stuff, because you essentially have this end-to-end device that you can deploy to your room. So that's the Media Line, the Skype room systems for built on in the Media Line product range.
Great, so all three of these are available to reserve now, so please check out our website. They will link to all the partner sites, and you can get a lot more information about them. So we wanted to show you, we don't have an actual demo unit here. They are in our booth again, but we'll show you some of the UX to walk through kind of what the user experience flow is. So here's one, here's the setup. Again, this is the center of room control, so you'll have this in your room, as well as a camera and a speaker that you choose. And here we have joining a scheduled meeting. So on the UX here, you can see all the scheduled meetings. These are the scheduled ones you have from Outlook, so you'll see those in line there, and this is where you can pop in your laptop.
So those are the ones over here, right? So it essentially starts already one step earlier. How do people schedule Skype for Business meetings, online meetings? They go into Outlook. Mm-hmm. And once you're in Outlook, you, of course, also want to make sure that you have a meeting room. Many people are using Exchange for that, where they have this category of rooms. So you, as an IT admin, have configured it as a room. Those are the rooms that you actually can also enable for Skype for Business. And you can not only enable them for meetings and for booking, but you can also enable those with a phone number. So once you go into our admin portal in Skype for Business or Skype for Business Online, you can assign a phone number to that room resource. The moment that you assign a phone number to that room resource, you essentially have a phone number that appears here with which anyone from outside could call the room. So when we said earlier you can replace your conference phone in your room, it's because that device, that speaker phone plus the controller, effectively gives you an option for, well, what's the price of this one, Henrik? $199 list price. You can attach that to this console, and you actually have a speakerphone that essentially replaces that speakerphone that you have there. And what happens as well is that this icon appears here. This is a dial pad. And this particular dial pad allows you to do, and we will come back to that in a second, what you expect from a dial pad. So meetings are scheduled in Outlook, then appear on that particular calendar that you have in the front of room. And like any other Skype for Business meeting that you join, there is a one-touch, one-click join to join the meeting.
And then here we're just showing how to project as well. So you again have that HDMI cord, so you can project right into your laptop, and then as well into the meeting with your remote participants. So they will see that here automatically without pressing any other buttons. They will see all that content. So then you'll see your remote participants there as well as content. And there's different gallery views that you can also control from the dock. If you want to just see content and people, just the video, then you can see that as well. There's the full screen mode where you see just the people. And again, we have converted that as part of feedback, the edge-to-edge video screen, so we don't have kind of some empty space around that we had previously. And then when you're done, you can unhook your laptop and hang up. And then it goes back to the main screen where they'll have the other scheduled meetings available in the room. So if you wanna, if you didn't already schedule the room in your Outlook invite, you walk into the room, you can just press ad hoc meeting there and then invite people direct. So it's connected to your Active Directory. So you can go ahead and type in your teammate's name, and it also shows their presence. So you'll see if they're busy or free, and you can directly invite them right from the console. You can see it calling there.
So it dials out now to all the different people, and then those people essentially are joined into a meeting. And that, by the way, if you go back for 1 second, in case you do not reach a person then with video, which is actually a more common case, we actually have we had some nasty emails from our users where they actually started putting towels on top of the camera because they had to get used to this whole video thing. Well, actually, you can also make phone calls. So if you would not want to dial the people with video, you can actually make a phone call. And that's what you see in this little avatar here on the right. This is a person that is not connected via video. That person did not accept the video call, but accepted with audio only, like you can do in Skype for Business. And then you see just the little avatar on the screen. Of course, not as beautiful as video, especially not with the camera that Polycom has when you want to see in great detail what ERAS looks like. But it is still a meeting experience that is acceptable.
And then like Albert mentioned, yes, we do have the PSTN calling option as well. If you are dialing into a conference room meeting, so you can go, conference like dial in, you can go in and press the dial pad, dial meeting number here directly, as well as adding in your DTMF codes straight into here, and then you'll be joined into that meeting as well.
And that's a big thing, actually, right? So that we are able to replace that conference phone, you don't need to make that cost, is one plus. That you now have video calls is another plus. That you do not need to actually worry about how to get a signal to your front of room screen from a laptop. So with other words, we do what we call HDMI ingest. So you can plug in your cable into your laptop and you can display to the front of room, is another plus that we have. Those are the things, like I said, when you are doing a certification for this particular room, that we all test. So that once you plug in your cable, that when you are looking at the video on your laptop, that it also shows as a video and not like a 5 frames per second choppy thing on the other side. Those are the types of things that we are testing in our Skype for Business certified program.
So I think that comes to the end. We'll take some questions, but a couple housekeeping items. If you haven't already, we are giving away 5 Rigels, or 5 Skype room systems, sorry, with a social sweepstakes. So it's #meetingaccomplished on Twitter or Instagram, and check out our booth, take a photo, submit it there. You can also go to skypemeetingaccomplished.com and enter to win. We also have the Join the Skype for Business community and some breakout sessions. If you haven't already signed up for these, there's a few more today as well as tomorrow.
All right, we are 20 minutes early, but I hope you have some questions and we can go in a little bit greater detail. Those who don't have questions, please fill out the eval form. Please go ahead.
Yeah, a few years ago, you guys did the Wi-Fi qualification program, and I think Aruba and Cisco signed up for that.
Yep.
Where do you see that program going?
Where do we see that program going? Up. No, let me actually seriously answer that question. And that's more in general as well, right? We see that there's a always greater demand to get rid of more and more of the cabling. So the investment that we are doing in this program is essentially make it possible that people switch from fixed networks to mobile to wireless networks. We are working with those vendors particularly to make sure that it works end-to-end. So that program is still alive, and we are working also with the association to make it more of a standardized approach than just a Microsoft-specific approach.
Will that still be true for the PC clients as well?
Is that true for the PC clients as well? I'm repeating because your microphone is not really picking up. I do not know where our tech went. But yes, that is also true for the PCs. There's quite a bit of work that we are doing there. So that, like I said, it's something that we continuously are still working on. Yes? Go ahead.
There's one here.
Oh.
There's on this side.
Will the Project Rigel app be available in the Windows Store, or will it only come with the hardware bundles?
At this very moment, it comes with the hardware bundles because of that we want to guarantee this experience end-to-end. That said, we have had a lot of questions of people in the last few days where people said, hey, I already have my contract for buying Surface Pros. I already have a relationship with Logitech. Can I start putting it together by myself? I don't expect that that will be happening anytime in the near future, but ultimately it is a universal app with effectively a hidden link in the store, and we are looking at, okay, hey, if we can control this experience end-to-end with making sure that the devices that you're attaching are those certified devices, from the dock all the way to the speakerphones, all the way to the essentially the end-to-end experience, at that very moment we would be open to it. So I see it happen in the future, not, however, in the near future.
So just as a follow-up to that, in the Logitech booth, they're saying it will be in the store because you have to provide your own Surface, so there's no way for them to pre-install it. So
that's not correct. So,
okay. So that's what they're telling people in the
booth.
So
we need to educate those salespeople. There are two aspects to it. Yes, you have to have it in the store, because what happens is we now have turned into this model where we are doing more frequent updates. You notice that already in Office when you have click to run. In this particular case, the updating of the app that goes on the Skype room system and the introduction of new features essentially goes via the Windows Store as well. So whenever we build those new features and they become available, whenever the app refreshes itself, it is from the Microsoft Store. Now you, as an IT admin, you might always want that. So let me be very explicit about that one. It is also possible to say, okay, instead of connecting this new generation of Skype room systems to the store directly, I actually want it to go through my company portal and control it in that particular way. So yes, we are completely updatable via the store in case you want to be very hands-off. If you want to be hands-on, there's a delay that you can put on those updates so you can prepare your users by actually putting it in your company portal. Next question.
You talked a lot about the low-quality mics and laptops. I'm wondering about the Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book and why, or whether those are actually Skype certified or could be, or in future versions would be.
Yeah, so let me repeat the question because the mic is still not on. It was about, yeah, hey, you talk a lot about the Mac, but the one device that you did not mention was the Surface Pro 4 and the Surface Book. What are you doing with them actually to make sure that we have the best experience? Actually, there is an enormous amount of work that went into the Surface Pro 4 and into the Surface Book. There's always room for improvement, but it is something that has our attention. Let me also give you a very selfish reason. Whenever our sellers go out, guess what device they are carrying? They're carrying those Surface Pros and Surface Books. So yes, there is a great attention to that to make sure that that has also the best experience. And we are working on it in order to improve it even better. Any other questions? With that?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please fill out the eval, and if you have any further questions, come to our booth and take part in the social events and fill out the eval. Thank you very much.
Thank you.